Welcome back to Virginia This Morning. We're live right here on CBS 6. Our next guest has provided extraordinary people and highly respected organizations with the most unique and comprehensive personal development coaching in the world. We're lucky to have him as a great friend of Virginia This Morning. Rob Roberts II, there he is, an innovative entrepreneur joins us live this morning to talk about how you can avoid weight gain during times of stress. Rob, it's great to see you.
Good morning, Jessica. It's such a pleasure to be here, and good to see you as well.
This is such an important conversation, and a conversation so many of us are having. It's extraordinary circumstances, and this journey, even in of itself, of comfort food and treating yourself and using food as that comfort is something we deal with even in the best of times. But as you have stress, anxiety, and fear, it really does amplify.
You're absolutely right. And I'm glad that you even mentioned comfort food as an example. The one thing that we need to do is continue to understand, what does stress do to our body in relation to food? A lot of times we look at stress or we look at food, but we don't put them together and look at the relationship between the two.
Are you finding, Rob, that people you're working with now who are struggling may not have even ever experienced this particular go-to as an issue, meaning food wasn't their necessary comfort that they were going to, but these circumstances have changed that?
You're absolutely right. The one thing that I try to tell everyone is that everyone's body responds to stress differently in relation to food. Looking at prolonged stress is a real key indicator. A lot of people will find themselves either losing weight or gaining weight, and they don't know the reason why. I try to tell people that our hormones actually dictate our appetite and our body weight. Sometimes we look at our hypothalamus, which is in our brain, and how it affects our pituitary glands and our adrenal glands, which actually produce our adrenaline and cortisol, which is our fight or flight or our stress response. But a lot of people don't know about our hunger hormones. We know about the stress hormones, but we don't know about the hunger hormones, which is called leptin and ghrelin. So when you see a friend or family member who's going through a lot of stress, and you might see them either gaining weight or losing weight, leptin actually regulates our appetite, and it actually causes us to believe that we already ate and that we don't even feel hungry. This will be the type of person who receives an angry phone call while they're at dinner and says, you know what, I lost my appetite. And they don't know why, but that is because of the stress hormone leptin. Ghrelin, on the other hand, actually causes you to overeat and to eat that sweet and high fat food and salty food, thus causing us to gain weight. So understanding the human body and how it works with our hormones is really essential in this battle.
It's really enlightening to hear that and learn that. When you mention hormones, the hormones that drive hunger, the hormones that are driven by stress. What happens when you're in this prolonged period of stress and you make that correlation? How are you advising, or how are you coaching to work through this?
Yes, well, we first have to dig down to the root. So many times we're so used to just cutting the leaves off of the weeds that we don't actually get down to the root cause. So when we dig a little bit deeper, we have to understand, where do these unhealthy eating habits actually come from? And a lot of this starts in our informal socialization when we're a child, when we're younger. A lot of times, for example, you'll hear parents say, hey, make sure to eat all the food off your plate, or you cannot leave that dinner table until you finish your food. And what that does is that actually causes our child to now eat under stress. And now they become a stress eater. This right here can lead them to getting obesity, and also cause them to have cybophobia, for instance, which is the fear of food, which later on will end up leading them to being bulimic or anorexic. And as they get an adult, they'll wonder why they're sitting down trying to eat a meal and they eat everything off their plate. They open up that bag of chips or cookies or even at dinner and they say, wow, I can't believe I ate that whole bag of chips. So it's one thing that we really need to pay attention to.
And we're talking about food. We haven't mentioned the other category of alcohol. And of course, we're reading all sorts of articles. Consumption is up, and the calories associated with alcohol are certainly very significant.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you brought that point. For some reason, it sounds like they're in a different category, but alcohol and, say, desserts, they're almost similar. When we think of, say, trying to get over stress and have a celebration or trying to cool down, a lot of people do use alcohol as that coping mechanism. Same thing with the dessert. You see at schools or at a doctor's office, someone has a Band-Aid or gets a shot, a doctor's handing someone a lollipop. Or a parent might say, hey, if you don't misbehave, I will give you some ice cream later on. So now that child associates that fear, stress, and anxiety with sugar as a coping mechanism. So now when they get older, let's just say, for example, they get dumped or they have a bad breakup in a relationship, they resort to that gallon of ice cream as that coping mechanism because of just like alcohol. Now it gives them that relativity to say, hey, you know what? I feel calm and relaxed now by having this. So it becomes comforting, and that's really not healthy for us.
So, Rob, we have about a minute left. You mentioned getting to the heart of the issue, getting to the root of what might be causing that drive to go towards the comfort eating and looking for that as that reward. How are you advising really working through some of these stressors? Is there an easy, maybe bite-sized 1, 2, 3 to at least start this or start examining this?
Yes, Jessica, you're absolutely right. We have to learn how to combat those emotional triggers that actually cause those unhealthy eating habits. So, what we have to look at is when we are sad, angry, or tired. This right here is usually when we make those unhealthy choices relating to food and stress. So, one tip that I like to give people is never shop for food and groceries when you're sad or angry. You never want to do that. And to limit a lot of that junk food that's in our homes, you never want to purchase them in the first place. So, some of those tips of actually eating from a smaller plate or a smaller bowl. This is why we can look at our consumption as far as our food intake. So understanding how stress relates to you, understanding those emotional triggers, it goes hand in hand. It's amazing. I really love the concept.
Don't shop when you're angry. Don't shop when you're sad. And hangry falls under that as well. Like avoid the whole hunger. Even if it's online shopping, some mysterious items fall into my cart.
Yes, and sometimes to even avoid that, we want to have that little cutoff time. We want to give ourselves that 2 or 3 hours before we go to bed, and then we lay our head down. So after you eat, give yourself that time for your body to actually digest. By not giving yourself that proper time to digest, we can actually cause acid reflux, indigestion, insomnia, and then we wonder why we're in the state that we're in. So having those pre-prep, those prepared meals the day before, and after you eat dinner, go ahead and just brush your teeth. That right there will kind of tell you, hey, you know what? No more food for me right now. It's time for me to just wait until tomorrow. So
It is an
there's a lot of
it is an incredible roadblock once you brush those teeth. That really does
right.
make a difference.
It does. It does.
Great talking with you, Rob. Thank you so much for the insights.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Tell Bill I said hi. Thank you.
Great to see you. And for more information on Rob's Never Stumble Consulting or Muscle to Bone Fitness, we'll have a link on our show website by early this afternoon, WTBR.com/BTM.